Hello, everyone. How's it going? Let me get in the camera shot here. Hi. How are you doing today? We are live on this wonderful weekend work session. I am going to be doing a few things here. Let me turn my camera a little bit. Maybe you can get a little bit of a better shot of me and what's going on here. I am going to be laying out the track that goes into my pulpwood yard. And that track consists of 2 turnouts and some flex track. Pretty simple, straightforward process, but should be for a good time. I really enjoy getting track laid down on my railroad because it means that I'm making progress, and that soon I'll be able to run trains over the track, which is always a good thing. It also means there's more places for me to store cars, so I can kind of get it out of the staging yards and onto the layout proper. So a few things I need to do. I've already prepped the flex track that's going in. We saw that process yesterday. Today I went ahead and prepped the, for the most part, prepped the turnouts that are going to go in. I need to drill holes for feeder wires and just start measuring and cutting. So let's go ahead and do that. I am going to try to get to questions that you may have along the way. And if I don't right away, I do apologize. I am, my computer's way over there. So I'm really unable to kind of see. Actually, you know what? Maybe I can do it on my phone. Can I do it on my phone without screwing everything up? That is the question. I can see the chat through my phone. Let's do it that way. I'll set it up here. I'm too high. I'm too high above the bench work. I'm going to get my step ladder and do it that way instead. Here we go. Much more comfortable place for me to be working from. Hopefully everyone's Christmas vacations are going well. Mine certainly is. Family sat down and watched Wonder Woman last night. Well, most of it. I ended up falling asleep. And we turned it off. Actually wasn't very much of a fan of the movie up to that point. All right, I'm going to digging out a little trough in my cork so that I've got a place for the spring on the end of the turnout to sort of sit into. I keep forgetting to do that, and it doesn't seem to affect it at all. Doesn't seem to affect it all. They have that turnout sticking out of there a little bit. I'm sorry, the spring is basically flush with the bottom of the turnout. It bumps out just a hair. It's the spring mounting sort of bracket, so the spring itself doesn't bounce out, but the bracket kind of does a little bit. So I haven't had issues with it yet. Yeah, those two are fine. I don't have issues with it yet, but that's not to say sometime in the future I won't. I won't run into issues. Now I'm going to drill holes for the frog wiring to go. And just like that. I've already pre-measured all this, obviously. The regular track feeder wires, I always go back and do that after I've installed the turnout. Or after I've installed all the track work. Just is a little easier, makes a little more sense that way. For me, anyway. Okay. So now I've got those turnouts kind of roughed out where they're going to end up going. Now we go ahead and lay out the track. Should be wearing safety glasses for this part. If I was smarter, I would have done that. Good morning, Melvin. How you doing? I built my track work to be fairly narrow, my bench work, I should say. Built it to be fairly narrow. I am doing good. I'm enjoying my break, Melvin. I'm having a good and well earned, I feel, Christmas break. It is good just to unplug and just be like, just not have to worry about what's going on. And just have put my focus on my railroad. I can never type. My thumbs are terrible, so don't worry about it. So, if you're just joining me, Melvin, I don't know, but if you are, hi. I am working on the track work for my paper mill. Working on the paper mill track work. It's a simple paper mill. It's a newsprint mill, actually. It's based on the real one in Usk, Washington. Oh, I gotta get rail joiners. I have got so many rail joiners. It is a little insane. These are all code 83. That's code 70, code 83, code 83. Transition joiner. Need that. So what is this? I cannot tell the difference between code 70 and code 83 rail joiners. Maybe that just means that they're so close it doesn't even matter. So the question is, do I open a new package with code 70s? Let's open a new package. I have so many rail joiners. I don't think I'm ever going to use them up. Oh, wait, this one's already open. So tell me about your layout, Melvin. You got a layout in a shed? I'm always interested in hearing what everyone else is doing. I like the idea of a layout in a shed. If it's a nice shed. A heated one. I've got a heater in my basement here to help me out. And it still sometimes feels a little cold. Although I got a new heater, and my new heater is really, I guess the one I had before was not super powerful, because this new one is just really doing a good job. These rail joiners, I tell you, Microengineering knows how to make a tight rail joiner. Man, they don't mess around. I'm actually pretty happy with the track plans able to come up with surrounding this paper mill. The real one is small enough that like I got lucky basically. It is nearly identical to the real paper mill. As far as there's no way I'm getting. Let me make sure this is actually code 70 rail. That rail joiner is not going on there at all. That's code 70. There's no reason it needs to be this tight. I feel like there must be a burr or something getting in the way. Mother-in-law is here. The only time the dogs act like that is when the mother-in-law shows up, because she always brings treats. And she has a wonderful way of showing up when the kid is taking a nap. It's the only time she shows up is when that kid is trying to take a nap. And the dogs just start going nuts. Oh, I cannot believe how tight this is. Ugh. All right, it's on there now, but holy cow. Let's not do that again. So do I try 2 more code 70 joiners on code 70 rail down here? I remember having this problem on the yard. Maybe I wasn't using code 70 joiners. Maybe I was using code 83. Man. All right, you know what? Forget it. We're gonna use code 83 joiners. The 70s are so tight. There's no reason for it. What are these? These must be code 70 as well. Why are they so tight? Am I crazy? I don't remember it being this bad on the yard. And I got code 70. I got code 70 in the yard too. Here, let's pull out some code 83 joiners. Sorry, it's just frustrating. It's just, I just do not want to go on. I'm having a moment here, folks. A double loop or double dogborn layout in the shed in the backyard. Decided to go N scale this time as the shed is 5 by 12 feet, smaller than the last layout. Yeah, it's N scale is awesome. Like I was thinking about N scale the other day, because this layout is 20 by 14 feet. And I feel like it is. I feel like it could be bigger. Of course, with model railroading, we always think, oh, it could be bigger. Because like I've got my interchange yard across the 20-foot wall, and granted, it takes a turn on both ends of it, and it's double-ended. But I feel like that yard could be longer, and it's a 20-foot wall. It's a good size. It's a good size length of run, and it still feels too small. So part of me is like thinking about that N scale. I used to have an N scale layout. And just thinking about like how much railroad I'd be able to fit along 20 feet of wall on N scale, right? So N scale N scale looks fantastic. I've been looking at N scale lately. And granted, it's not as detailed necessarily as HO scale can be, but I'm not sure that I could tell the difference unless I was really up close to it. Like the details that you normally look for in N scale, or the difference between HO and N scale, sometimes you just can't tell the difference. And I think the overall effect of an N scale an N scale layout, the side, the once you get trees and scenery and all sorts, and buildings and all sorts of stuff in there, like it's just as impressive as HO. One of the reasons I decided to go, because my last like major layout before my previous layout This is not going to, I got to replace these rail joiners. This is not going to, this Code 70 stuff's not going to work at all. I had an N scale layout and it was real tiny. It was on a door. And I kept that equipment around for a long time, thinking I might get back in N scale again. I ended up going with HO partly because of DCC and sound. Because when I got into motor railroading again, DCC, the sound equipped locomotives started really like taking over. And it hadn't really made its way down to N scale yet. So I was like, I want that sound. But now it's an N scale too. And now the sound isn't so important to me as it once was. I like the sound, don't get me wrong. I think it helps. But it's not the end all be all of mono railroading. I like the size of N scale a lot. Yeah, with a 5x12 foot shed, you can't go wrong with an N scale layout. Three rail O scale with 100-foot long staging yard still wasn't enough. Holy cow. That would be gorgeous to see. I love O scale. I love the size of O scale, especially like, I really love when I see those guys doing like really amazing, realistic stuff with O scale. Once you start getting to like O scale size, the size of the equipment starts to become really impressive. I think HO is a good middle ground. I mean, I'm happy with HO. I think for me it works. There's a lot of sound coming from upstairs. That's interesting, though. Move my microphone over a little bit more for you. That's interesting, though, going from O scale to N scale. That must be a pretty big leap. Yeah. Leave that off for right now until I can glue down the track. Loft in the barn. So you're used to sort of outbuildings being used for mono railroads, huh? Having a loft in a barn, that's pretty big space for something like that. I hear mother-in-law coming downstairs. Let me go check on her.
Hey, where's the popcorn, mate?
Oh, that's very good. Cool. Let me finish up what I'm doing down here. I'll be up.
All right, I'll probably be gone, man.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks for bringing it by. Alrighty. So you left all your O-scale stuff when you graduated high school. So you had a really major O-scale layout growing up as a kid. That's awesome. It's cool your dad let you take over a whole huge space like that. I had, when I was in high school, well, I started a layout in my basement. In kind of it wasn't really a room. It was more like an area between rooms. It was large enough for a 4 by 8 foot that was positioned against the wall. And so I started my layout there. That was my first layout. And I learned a lot. The biggest thing I learned was don't put a 4 by 8 foot layout against a wall because you'll never be able to get to the back of it in order to work on it. And that layout existed for, I don't know, maybe a year. And I didn't get super far on it because just, like I said, like the whole getting to the back part of the layout was so difficult. It was just not fun to work on. So I didn't get very far. I didn't get past track work. I was able to run trains in circles, and that was about it. And my parents made me take it down after that, basically, since, said if I wasn't going to work on it. So that's when my next layout, I went smaller. That's when I chose N scale. And I went with a layout on a door that I could, with folding legs on it, so that I could get that layout folded and put away when I wasn't working on it. That was a smart idea. That layout got basically done. I could have spent more time detailing with scenery and more time, with some of the structure kits. But that one was basically got done. So that one taught me that, at least for myself, less is more when it comes to model railroading. So my next couple of layouts were smaller as well. And it wasn't until I moved into this house, which I don't ever plan on moving out of this house if I can help it, that I said, you know what, I got space, I've got time. I've been into model railroading since I was in like 5th or 6th grade, so I know I've got the interest to last me through the rest of my life. Let's go ahead and do what I kind of been wanting to do all these years, and that is to actually build a decent sized model railroad. But not so big that I couldn't handle it. Not so big that I wouldn't be able to ever finish it. So that's what we're doing. 20 by 14 feet. Fairly simple track plan. Made to be operated by one operator. But can be operated by more than one. Should I decide to go there one day? I could have two. two trains working the layout at the same time if I wanted. But it's not a requirement to actually run. Man. So what area of the country are you modeling? Are you modeling Appalachian Mountain coal railroading, or what are you doing? And have you done the same thing this entire time? Or are you one of those folks that likes to jump around eras and themes and all that? I think I'm ready to start gluing. When I lay down track, I do a little bit at a time. I try to do about 6 feet at a time at the most. Just so I'm not getting over my head when it comes to the gluing process. So that's what we're doing here today. We're doing 6 feet. Right now. And then later on today, I'll come back and I'll finish out the remaining portion. Wind River area outside of Wyoming now, so it looks like you're maybe doing a little bit of everything over the years, but Wyoming's a beautiful country to be doing model railroading in, for sure. All right, so I'm using DAP Alex Plus Clear silicone adhesive. I really like it for this kind of stuff. I've used Elmer's wood glue up to this point in the past and have only for just now for this layout started using this this kind of stuff. I'm sorry, I didn't use wood glue. I used white glue on previous layouts. Just because it was easy to use, it's what I had, it's what I understood, what I knew as far as adhesives go. So, but this stuff is really cool. I like it a lot. It holds well, it's flexible, which is good for track. It is super cheap. A tube of this is like $2. I don't think there's anything that cheap in model railroading anymore. You can get a lot of track laid down for $2. Sorry, I'm not talking much. I'm concentrating over here. Oh, come on, go on. There we go. There we go. That is on there now. So what I do is I lay it down on the glue while the glue is still wet. Get everything laid down, everything connected. The dry time on this is not, I don't think it's as quick as white glue. So you have a little bit of time to kind of work it, which is good. It stays tacky and flexible for a while. You don't want to walk away from it. That's for sure. Ah, shoot. These darn joiners. If I weren't live, there would be words. There would be colorful language going right now if it wasn't live. Okay. That is on there as well. Oop. Got some glue on this side. I try not to lay down too much glue, but sometimes I get a little goopy with it. You don't need a ton of glue to glue down track work, especially since, like, once you ballast it, man, that track is always going to stay nice and firm, and you're not going to have problems keeping it in place at all. Well, this is still really wet. I got some silicone up on the track itself, which isn't the end of the world. Just make sure I wipe it off before I go too much further. The good thing about this stuff is it sort of like it contracts. It pulls itself down, and so it's a little thicker and a little poofier when it comes out. But once it starts to dry, it dries clear, and it like kind of pulls itself down and away from things. So what's cool about that is if you got it kind of sticking up between rails and stuff, it'll kind of go away on its own. And like I said, it dries clear. And hopefully, if I can put ballast down, you won't see any of the any errant silicone anywhere. Okay, now that I got the track down, I am going to eyeball it to make sure I'm happy with everything. Oh, cool. I like hearing stories of people with family members who were working the railroads. I never had that in my family, so like I never had anyone I could even talk to about railroading to ask questions about how it worked or anything. So everything I've picked up about railroading has been just kind of through osmosis over the years of playing with my own trains. I'm not looking for perfectly straight track. I'm looking to recreate kind of old bad track, and so if it's not perfectly straight, it's actually a little bit more what I'm looking for in this thing, which is cool. But that said, I don't want it to be necessarily terrible either. So I noticed the other day that this portion, let me get a toothpick. This portion wasn't glued down super great, so I'm going to add some more glue in this area right here. I think it could be glued better than it is right now. Okay, this is laid out nicely. And I'm just going to make some adjustments here and there. You can probably see from your end if the track is straight or not. If you need to make adjustments, now's the time to do it. While the track is still pliable and bendable. And now I come back with thumbtacks and I secure everything down. Just being careful not to mess with the track too much while I come through here and do this. And I think that, like, as I said before, that glue kind of like draws itself down and in. I think that helps draw the track down to the cork and really hold it in place. It feels that way anyway. I don't know if that's really what's happening, but just continuing to eyeball, make sure I'm happy with what I'm seeing. Let me add a little more glue under here. Easier now than later, especially with these turnouts. I don't want turnouts going anywhere. I'm just continuing to eyeball this a little bit, see if I like how it's looking. These ties that I loosened up and moved yesterday, I'm kind of going through here as well and just looking at them and lining things up a little bit differently if I feel like I need to, or moving some ties around if I feel like I need to. Giving the occasional tie a bit of a twist, as if it's come a little loose, and try not to overdo it. You want it to look, when you're modeling beat up track, there's a fine line, right? You want it to look beat up, but you don't want it to look, you want it to look naturally beat up. You don't want to look like it's purposefully beat up, like you going out of your way to kind of beat it up and make it look a little rougher than it should be. But you don't want to do it so subtly that when you see a tie that's out of place, it looks like a mistake. It's like this weird, game you're playing almost. It's like, how bad can I make this look before it starts to look too bad? So that's what I'm doing now. I'm kind of going through here and just making some adjustments on some of the ties. The idea being that this is a freelance railroad, so I'm kind of coming up with some of the rules myself, but the idea being that, like the real railroad, they don't have all the money in the world, and so they don't necessarily go fixing ties unless they really need to. They operate on the good enough approach. As long as it's not going to cause an issue soon, they're not going to bother fixing it. Now, at this point, I've glued down. This is why I only work in about 6 feet sections at the most, because I laid the glue down. And it's a little hard to see, so I'll show you guys here. Sorry about the camera going violent here for a second, but you can start to see that this glue is starting to, especially like right, I don't know if I can pull the camera any further over, but these spots where we're seeing like glue, so we're seeing like glue right here, and then not glue, and then glue again. There's actually glue there in the middle where you're not seeing the glue, but it's started to dry. Same little thing over here. That spot where you don't see any glue, there's actually glue there. It's starting to dry. It's actually dried up pretty good at that point, and it's turned clear. And that's fine. That's what it's supposed to do. But that's telling me that the glue is starting to get to the point where it's not quite as workable as it was before. And so I need to start finishing up. So that's what I'm doing. It's still tacky. It's still going to work on gluing and stuff down, but it's not going to be quite as pliable as it was before. So I'm just going to come through here and I'm going to kind of clean up some of the excess glue that got a little crazy. And like I said, it pulls itself, it shrinks up a little bit as it dries, so it doesn't need to be overly messy, and that's all going to get covered in ballast anyway. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through here and I'm just going to work my switch points just to ensure that they're not sticking together. So that I'm not surprising myself by gluing my switch points in a bad way once the glue dries. Okay, now I'm going to let this dry for 2 to 3 hours before I come back here and take all the tacks up. You don't need to let it dry all day. 2 to 3 hours I think is good, and then it's sufficiently secure Let me read. Just making a little bit of an adjustment to the whole thing. Okay. If you're going to make these adjustments, do them now. It gets significantly harder later. And I think that's it. Just going to eyeball it again a little bit, just to make sure that I'm happy with everything. Yep, those little details, Melvin, beating up occasional tie, they really do a lot. One of the reasons why I'm doing such a small layout, I have space in my basement. I could do a very, very large layout. I could probably do a 100-foot run main line if I wanted to, real easy. But part of the reasons why I'm doing a small layout is because I want to be able to do all these little details. When you do large layouts, you got to kind of make compromises and say, like, well, you know, I'd like to do a lot of track detailing, but I've got, you know, 7 square miles of track I got to lay. Or 7 miles of track I got to lay, right? So you make compromises in what you want to do with detailing in order to have more railroad. And I would prefer more detail to more railroad. But that's just me. Everyone's different. All right, I am going to let this dry and then finish out the rest of the track work at my paper mill. And that paper mill will be done and ready to go. I'm super excited about that, man. You have no idea. I've been looking at bare plywood here for like a year, waiting for the day that it lays track down. So I'm really excited to get that done. And then I'm going to go back. I'm going to do this mainline track here. I'm actually going to do that on a video. We're going to do a how to lay track video to show my techniques for laying track and some of the tips and tricks that I have come up with for laying track. Because I think it works out pretty good. And I think others could use this, could benefit from a video like that. So, Melvin, thank you for joining me today. Thank you for the others who stopped by as well, just to check out what's going on. Hopefully you have a great Christmas vacation. And I'm going to keep working in this basement. I'm going to keep trucking along. I'll see everyone in a future video. Thank you so much. Bye.